April 26th meeting of the St. Bernard Community Improvement Corporation. If we could have a roll call by the secretary, please.
Jonathan Stuchel,
Present.
Tom Ralston,
Present.
Bob Culbertson,
Here.
Joe Brickler, Peggy Brickweg,
Here.
Ray Culbertson,
Here.
Chris Sauer,
Here.
Chris Schildmeyer, Jerry Wiedemann, Amy Osmali. Okay.
All right, you have all been presented with the minutes from the last meeting. Is there a motion to accept the minutes as presented and dispense with the reading of the minutes?
I'll make a motion to accept and suspend.
All right, treasurer's report.
As of the end of March, the balance in the First State Bank is $25,190.06. In Fifth Third Bank, it's $432,581. That concludes my report.
Okay, the first item under the action items would be the shopping center purchase agreement. At this point, I would actually like to ask for a motion to go into executive session to discuss the sale of property.
I'll make a motion, we go in executive session to discuss sale of property.
I'll
Okay. On the motion to go into executive session to discuss the sale of property, Jonathan Stuchel,
Yes.
Tom Ralston,
Yes.
Bob Culbertson,
Yes.
Peggy Brickweg,
Yes.
Ray Culbertson,
Yes.
Chris Sauer,
Yes.
Chris Schildmeyer,
Yes.
Jerry Wiedemann.
Yes.
At this point, we'll excuse ourselves and be right back shortly. is there a motion to come out of executive session?
I'll make a motion.
All right.
There we go.
All right. On the motion to come out of executive session, Jonathan Stuchel,
Yes.
Tom Rolson,
Yes.
Bob Culbertson.
Yes.
Joe Brickler. Yes. Welcome. Peggy Brickweg,
Yes.
Ray Culbertson,
Yes.
Chris Sauer,
Yes.
Chris Schildmeyer,
Yes.
Jerry Wiedemann.
Yes.
All right, motion passes. Welcome back, everybody.
Just for a quick review, we went into executive session, of course, to discuss the purchase of property and the upcoming purchase agreement with the developer, which is an ongoing process. Our next item on our, as far as action items, the RFP for the Tower Avenue property. I know we didn't quite make as much progress as we wanted on that, but at this point, we had agreed at the last meeting, basically per our minutes, that we were going to extend the timeline for submissions for plans to be approved, and we were also going to do a Zillow listing, which is still hopefully going to happen, but at this point, once we do the Zillow listing, then we can update the timeline as far as for the applicants to submit directly to us.
So it is going on Zillow. They have a period of time where it's in review, and it is currently in review with them. So it should be posted pretty soon here. Because I did have a little bit of a delay in getting that up there. I think we had talked about the end of May for the deadline for that, so I shifted it to June 15th to add 2 weeks to that, which would still give us time before the June meeting to get those in and review those. So I will, as soon as that goes live, I will let you all know.
We need to, at the same time, then update on the website and the overall actual original, I guess, the draft that we have on the website.
Yes, I do have an updated version of that, so I can share that with you to post on the website.
Great.
I'm sorry, Taylor. So the deadline is now June 15th?
Okay, next item, 4913 Andrew contract violations. So at this point right now, it has come to my attention that there are actually individuals that are living in the property, whether those are individuals that are working on it, but they should not obviously be there. There's not an occupancy permit, so I'm working with the building department on that. However, what brought this to my attention was the fact that there have been several police responses to the property at this point, which is how it became, we became aware that there were individuals that were actually residing in the structure. So at this point, we are going to start composing a violation notice, basically giving them a 30-day period to, I guess, rectify or cure this situation before we would have to go any further with any legal action. So we want to get on that immediately, but again, this has all come up in the last week. So at this point, I guess if anyone has any comment, especially our legal counsel.
I think a 30-day notice is more than sufficient. The contract they signed last fall stipulated that it either had to be owner occupied or it had to be sold to an owner occupant, and that they had a certain time frame in which to complete all of the construction that they promised to do. So it sounds like they've breached on two counts. However, the process to take the property back is going to be both time-consuming and probably not cheap. So if we can get them to clean up without having to go to court, it would be to everybody's benefit.
I think we're talking about two different things here. One, we're talking about they don't have an occupancy permit, so they should have to evict those people right away. Okay, that has nothing to do with taking the building back. It's a code for St. Bernard.
Right, and that's not even CIC's ground at that point, if that's a code violation.
I guess the question is who's living there? If it's not technically the owners, then they're in violation, because it's supposed to be owner occupied. And if it's not the owners occupying it, then they're in violation of our agreement and the code of St. Bernard.
Right, it doesn't matter who's living there right now. Nobody can be in there right now.
Correct, but I think there's two different issues. The owner, if the owner's in there, then they're not in violation of ours, but they're in violation of St. Bernard.
Yeah, I think it's technically 3 issues if you look at it like that. There's the 2 CIC issues, which are the violation of our agreement with them, and then there's the larger global issue of not having a certificate of occupancy and having someone live in the property, which is beyond our realm, but nonetheless a problem.
And just to give the board an update, I am going to be issuing an invoice to them because Waterworks never, I guess, took the account out of our name. So when they turned on that water, I just saw the bill start coming back through. And they actually went back and billed us for a prior month. So I'm putting together documentation and I'll give that to Meredith, I guess. You can deliver it with the notice.
Yeah. So is the building department's gonna issue their own separate warning? That's not gonna be issued in connection with our letter, correct?
Correct. The building department will be taking action on this and also moving forward with just investigating what's happening as far as if they're actually falling in line with their permit and everything else that's in their process. So, but again, this all just kind of came to head over a domestic situation, so it just then allowed us to become aware of what was happening. So, again, that will be dealt with from the building department, and we'll have an update there. So, but again, from our standpoint, then we'll be composing our own notification of their violations to their contract.
I got another question. We didn't get billed for them putting a new line in, did we?
I'll double check that. Like I said, I just got a bill and it was back billing, but I'll double check to make sure if we did, that'll be included in the bill, us and the mayor.
When we actually, and I have to go back and look at the closing statement, but we actually, through the negotiation process before we did close, we did actually reduce the actual initial, I guess, asking price based upon some of the plumbing work that had to be done. So the reconnection became, so basically there had to be a licensed plumber that had to do all of the work except for the connection to the meter. Waterworks did so much of it based on, because they abandoned that line. But actually it wasn't Waterworks that abandoned the line. It was actually Duke Energy. So there wasn't anything with Waterworks. It was Duke's, I'm sorry, I apologize, I need to correct that. Duke actually was the one that abandoned the line, and they made full responsibility of the actual property owner to have a licensed plumber come out and do the bulk of the work until the actual reconnection.
But because we reduced that purchase price, that responsibility should not.
Correct.
Right, okay.
Correct.
So they need to pay for it if we got
Yeah,
billed
what
for
I'll
it.
do is I'll just get the bills from, since the time we closed, just to make sure, and then
Okay.
it's just gonna be simply rebill.
Actually, that was for the gas line, not the water line.
That's what we just said, right?
Yeah.
We just corrected ourselves, Tom. And then, before we go into, I guess, open discussion, additional agenda items, I do have one other item that I did not put on the agenda that I should have, and that is actually the purchase of 4631 Vine Street. So we actually were, I guess, had documentation sent over from the port, or the land bank, I should say, for the purchase of that property. The reason it's actually even come about is that I need to notify them of that property itself needs to be, maintained and mowed, which for some reason it has not been as of yet, and it's about a foot tall. So we have closing documents, of course, that were sent to us that we, didn't really act on because we were questioning the purchase price and whether or not the CIC wanted to move forward with the purchase of the property for $23,091.75. So we were kind of tabling that because we were questioning the NIP funding program, as far as which paid for the demo, why that was so much higher than all of the other properties that we had reacquired from them. The one issue as well is that everyone that we basically started with working through the land bank and the port is pretty much not there, which makes things a little more difficult. So we kind of have to circle back to determine, if this, a better explanation as to why this purchase price was so much higher, which they were blaming, I guess, more or less on demo cost. So whether or not the CIC is in a position where we want to, take this seriously and reacquire the property, or whether or not we want to allow it to cycle back into, the land bank's holdings and basically kind of abandon that opportunity.
My take on this really is just, we could go back to them and say, no, we don't want to repurchase this property. I am not sure contractually, and Meredith, I wanted to check with you whether we have an obligation to purchase the property at this point, or whether we have that ability to say, no, we do not want to have you reconvey the property to us or purchase the property. If we did purchase the property, it just adds to what we have along Vine Street and what we can master plan around. If we don't purchase the property, it stays in the land bank, and they continue to maintain it, or they add it to their maintenance list, it sounds like. And they also have an application process that anyone would need to go through in order to purchase it. So they can't and would not sell it to someone speculatively. So I think that's just a decision that the board needs to consider.
And to be clear, we haven't signed a contract. We've never actually agreed to buy the property. They offer it to CICs first before they open it up. So they approached us about whether or not we wanted it. We saw the purchase price, had a bit of an aneurysm. So no, we haven't agreed to buy it.
What was the price?
It's like 24,000. It's considerably higher than
$23,091.75, which if we went back and compared that to all of the other demoed properties, this is just excessive.
To be fair, it is a commercial property. It's a little bit different when it comes right up to the sidewalk like that. So I could see expenses rising, and I don't know the specific situation on that one, but I don't think it really matters all that much now. It's just a matter of whether we want to purchase the property or not, or let it go through their process.
And with that property, something, I can't remember, I believe that still has a basement in it. So if we purchased it and we wanted to develop it, we'd have to dig that out. Because if memory serves me correctly, we tore it down with the vision of putting a pocket park in there, like a gazebo, or Paul had a drawing downstairs. And I think the reason behind it was I think the basement was in there and it was going to cost more, and they didn't have enough frontage. I'm not 100% sure because it's been a couple years.
I think it had to do with the sidewalk caving in or something, if they took that out on that side. Do you remember it, Jerry?
I'm not sure on that specific situation, but I do know that under NIP funding, they are required to take out any, basements or footers. Now, if the sidewalk was potentially caving in, I think it's fair to say that portion up where the sidewalk is could have been left there, but I couldn't say for sure.
Shouldn't that be documented somewhere at the land bank that we could?
Yeah.
Because I think that is part of the calculation here, right? Yeah. It's one thing to pay for it at 20 whatever grand. It's another thing if it's 20 grand plus
The cost.
known site development costs.
Okay.
Well, at this point, I'd like to actually entertain the option of reaching out to get clarification on the demo, if they can provide any further documentation as far as what portion of the foundation was removed and what is existing, and see what there is. And then also whether or not this is still, a hard purchase price, or whether or not there's even an option to make, a counter offer, or whether or not, this just needs to go back in. So, I mean, if we can follow up and try to verify with them, and maybe we could have some kind of explanation, for the next meeting, and then we could discuss this further and let the board, vote on whether or not we want to move forward. Because basically, this is kind of like the closing documents that were just forwarded
Yeah,
on.
they just emailed their entire closing package over. They were like, here, do you want to buy this? Here's all the documents. Okay.
Okay, so that will be work in progress. As far as some upcoming items for the next meeting, obviously the Vine Street Master Plan that we are still working on, trying to put together, I guess, an RFQ so that we can get something together so we can put out the opportunity to bid on what we're looking for. And then as far as the the St. Clement Lot license agreement, the Archdiocese attorneys still are sitting on that. Again, they followed up and asked for a Word version of it, so that I'm sure that they're just redlining it. But anyhow, I wanted you to be aware of that. I've not heard anything back, but I'm going to pressure them to try to obviously make some sort of decision. We're now back in mowing season, so at this point, because there is no agreement, I mean, right now, we're still going to have that obviously maintained.
But are they still using the property?
I have not seen them on it.
I have seen them on it. I think it's fair to maybe impose a deadline by which they need to get back with a decision, or at least a red line document at this point. I mean, I know we're getting ready to go into the summer months, so maybe it's not as pertinent, but I think at a minimum by next school year, this needs to be hammered out.
Yeah.
I agree that I think this should be dealt with. So I will reach out to them and let them know that this does need to be resolved by both parties, before the beginning of the next school year. One item before we go into the open discussion, additional agenda items. As far as property maintenance, we had a situation where we were notified by Dollar General Corporate that the roof was leaking again. The roof really wasn't leaking. Chris Schulmeyer went over and looked, and it was determined that there was actually a water line that runs through the ceiling that was leaking. So we were able to get a local plumber over there, which had to be dealt with pretty quickly because it was going to turn into a bigger issue. So we do not have the bill on that yet, but it was repaired immediately. Feichner Brothers did an awesome job of dropping what they were doing and getting right on it. So the storeroom in the back is no longer filling up with water, so we're done there. Does anyone on the board have anything else under open discussion or additional agenda items before we open it to the one public member?
I do if Tom wasn't going to jump in. No, thank you. I serve on the Recreation Department, and we had a community member come to us, and the us in this is the administration with Jonathan, interested in a community garden. And so this happened in the winter, but really this whole thing picked up steam about it just a little over a month ago. And so since then, we've organized the group. We've had meetings, 3 or 4 meetings already. And due to the nature or the speed with which this was all happening, there was no time to form an independent group, independent of government per se. So it's running via the Recreation Department this year. And so, but given the fact that it was happening after all those things happened, there wasn't any kind of dedicated funding to build this garden. So we are looking for money, frankly, to build this thing. So if you've not been over to Tennis Lane, we had a couple of build days over the weekend. We're building 36 plots, 4x8 gardens. They're in clusters of 4. There'll be 9 of them. I don't have all of my numbers put together. Some folks are asking for multiple gardens, but I feel pretty confident we're going to fill them all, or at least pretty close to it. We had a lot of turnout. We've seen a lot of folks. We had dozens come and help in the brutal hot sun that it was on Saturday and Sunday. And a lot of folks that you've seen at places, but a lot of folks that don't do other things, or at least haven't done other things so far. So it's been a real good opportunity to get more folks involved in St. Bernard, doing different things, having them work with each other. And given the purpose of the CIC, to foster and improve the village of St. Bernard and to do things above and beyond just real estate transactions, but, you know, to just make this place a little bit better for the residents and businesses alike. I was hoping that this group would be a contributor to that campaign or that project. The budget has gone up. We needed a little more gravel than expected, so we were looking for about a $4,000 budget. We're up to about $4,500 budget now. I have booked a little over $3,000 right now. So, you know, I'll take, you know, 5, 10 grand, whatever you want. No, obviously, you know, it's up to this group. Zero is a number as well, but it seems to me that given the resources we have here and the purpose of this organization, and what I'm at least telling you is a real and direct impact on the residents, you know, both just kind of getting together, being able to do things, being able to, folks that don't have properties that can grow vegetables suddenly now being able to do so. I think it's a worthwhile investment.
I have a question. Is this just open to St. Bernard residents?
Yes.
Okay.
Chris, I'm ignorant with it, are we charging the people?
It is, so we based this on the models that I toured about 10 of these things. And some of them are free, but we opted to go with a nominal fee, basically so that they got some skin in the game. So each 4x8 garden bed is $20. But also understand that every single one of these people that is putting in a garden, I leaned on them hard to make additional contributions to get this thing off the ground, and they have been very generous. In fact, 25% of this project is being funded by one single donor. And nearly, well over 50% of the individual gardeners have contributed above and beyond that $20. I've also got some community partners that have thrown in money. So, you know, the CIC would not be alone, but, you know, I first went to the folks that will benefit directly, and then I'm layering out from there. But it's $20 a garden.
Chris, if I understand you right, so the total cost is around $4,500, and
Yep.
you've got, you think, about $3,000 in
Yep.
the pocket, so there's
I've
a
got-
$1,500 gap.
Yeah,
that-
basically, yes. And yes, the majority of that is in hand. I've got some of it as commitments, and some of it is my predictions on those $20 fees coming in.
Is there a plan for this to be presented to council? I mean, we're talking $1,500. I'm not trying to get us out of doing it, am I missing something here? $1,500?
I'm still trying to figure out why you're asking if we need to present this to council.
Well, to come out of the city budget instead of, or the village budget instead of city.
I don't think this needs to come out of the city budget any further than it already is. I mean, there already is some expense, you know, that's being assumed, and assistance based on the village providing the use of an excavator, assisting us in that kind of thing. So, I mean, it is a partnership with the village. I mean, it's a village project because obviously it's through recreation, so helping to make up some of the gap. But as far as the actual true funding of the project, because the way it came on so quickly and the community asked for it, it was actually, you know, post, you know, budgeting timeframe. So again, it's, if this group doesn't want to do it, that's fine. You know, he was just, the proposal was that, hey, for an opportunity to be able to give back for a community project, which was actually kind of exciting, again, to see people come together that you wouldn't have seen otherwise. But rather than asking for an additional appropriation, to me, this seems like a logical option.
The other thing I'll add is that, you know, I guess culturally this group is an independent organization. It's just a byproduct of the speed with which we're working, that it's happening as a function of recreation and all this year. The expectation is they will be their own independent 501c3 this calendar year, and that they would be doing things like soliciting this group and other community organizations for funding in the future.
Yeah, I'm fine with the $1,500. I don't,
Mr. President, well, they might not like my motion. I'm going to motion for 2,000 because, like he said, some of it's earmarked, some he's not sure of, but we just ran into the issue with the gravel, so I would like to maybe get them a little bit ahead, and so I'd like to make a motion that the CIC donate 2,000 to this cause.
I'll second it.
It sounded like we still had comments coming in. That's the only reason I haven't called for a roll call vote.
No, I'm fine with it. You're saying that it's going to go to a nonprofit status. I guess, do we have I'll have to look into it, but I'm assuming we can donate to a nonprofit and you know, if this was gonna be future, and I would wanna try to come up with some sort of, you know, just from a board perspective of future requests coming in. That way, you know, we don't get a line of people, you know, cause there's a lot of people that do a lot in the community and a lot of things. Just some sort of a process to submit something, so we're not always put on a spot and say, hey, it's 2,000 for you, 2,000 for you.
Sure.
Not saying it's
Sure.
not a bad
Oh, yeah.
thing, and I'm
No,
not for
absolutely.
it, but just put something behind it, so we're not,
Yeah.
you know, taking requests.
And I don't know if this helps just for now. At this point, the check, the money will be written to the city because we're running, because they didn't have a time to do all that. And so what we decided to do is I'm running everything through miscellaneous revenue, therefore miscellaneous expenses. So council will be asked to do the additional appropriations, but we're also gonna have the additional money in the revenue. And I think, you're gonna possibly come Thursday night to talk, or,
I'm super excited.
well, okay, you don't have, well, I
No,
mean, I'm
yes,
ready
yes,
because
yes, yeah.
Councilman Taberkey's already been asking questions.
I will-
So we're kind of ready for it.
Yep.
But there will be an additional appropriation, but we are bringing in the money.
Yep.
So I would say you would still be giving it to a nonprofit or government entity because it will be coming to the village.
On the 20, okay. All right.
I have one question. Is this part of our charter for the CIC to do this? Well, I know when they set it up, it was guidelines and rules and what this committee was supposed to do. There's bylaws and there's rules and everything.
And I do not have copies of those.
Our purpose is to foster the improvement of and the economic development of St. Bernard as an entity. So I interpret that as you will, but that is the purpose.
I mean, I don't object, but I'm not sure if that falls under economic for the village.
I don't know that it's even restricted to economic. I mean, there's two parts here. There are the rules that St. Bernard filed, and I don't have those in front of me, but I believe it was for the betterment of St. Bernard. It was generically written, and the state statute that allows for CICs to exist is very broad as well. As, you know, it's been mentioned at several meetings, you know, the one for Green Hills exists exclusively to run a summer concert series, and that's all they do.
It's very common for CICs and CDCs to implement programming and things that go beyond physical property development.
All right. According to the bylaws or the articles of incorporation filed with the Secretary of State, the sole purpose for which the corporation is formed is to advance, encourage, and promote the industrial, economic, commercial, and civic development of the city of St. Bernard. And
This would be
we-
civic.
I think we're good. Okay, well, if there's no further comments, let's vote on Peggy's motion. On the motion to donate $2,000 to the community garden, Jonathan Stuchel,
Yes.
Tom Ralston,
Yes.
Bob Culbertson,
Yes.
Joe Brickler, Peggy Brickwig,
Yes.
Ray Culbertson,
Yes.
Chris Sauer.
Abstain.
That's fair. Chris Schildmeyer,
Yes?
Jerry Wiedemann.
Yes.
All right, all in favor with one abstention.
One question, Peggy, can you send me something just after you get the check, so I got it, in case, for whatever reason, the auditors ask for it? I got something that just says, hey, we donated for this.
And I'll also, it'll be an official acknowledgement as well.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, is there anyone else that has anything under open discussion, additional agenda items? Anyone in the audience? Last chance. Okay, at this point, our next meeting will be Tuesday, May 24th in council chambers. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion, we adjourn.